Today, we're very fortunate to have with us one of the most sought-after speakers in this part of the world, and with good reason. His story is one of perseverance, passion, and power. Dr. Cozy Sidney Makai is an international thought leader, inspirational and motivational speaker, social entrepreneur, and organizational psychologist. He is the CEO of Cozy Makai Worldwide, a solution studio focused on helping people live unapologetically through their strengths. Dr. Makai was born in Zambia and raised on a farm until he was 19. At the age of 19, he left a flourishing professional and all-nation basketball career to focus on his education in the United States. He finished his bachelor's in communication and psychology in 3.5 years from Sam Houston State University, his master's in leadership and influence in just 8 months from Jones International University, and his doctorate in applied management and decision sciences in only 18 months from Walden University. That means he took only 5.6 years to complete what usually takes 14 years, and earning the newspaper headline, Success the Makai Way. He's the author of 5 books, a part-time professor at Lone Star College, Montgomery, and a passionate educator and learner. He is the last of 9 children with siblings living all over the world, from Africa to Belgium to Thailand. Dr. Makai and his wife Tabitha live in Houston. Please help me welcome Dr. Makai to the stage.
So I was in an Uber ride a few months ago. I get in the back seat. The guy looks at me and says, "Hey, where you headed?" I said, "Oh, I'm going over to see a client over there." He says, "Well, what kind of work do you do?" I said, "Well, I consult." So what does that mean? I said, "Well, I basically tell people what to do." He says, "All right, cool." And he looks at me again. This is the guy driving, right? So I'm a little worried that he's looking at me while he's driving. And he says to me, "I hear an accent. Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from Africa." He's like, "Come on, man, help me out here. Africa is pretty big." So at this point, I'm really impressed that he understands that. No, really. And so he says, I said, "Well, I'm from Zambia." He's like, "All right, that's a little too specific. Can you give me more ideas?" I said, "It's right below Congo and right above Zimbabwe." He's like, "Cool." This is in California, by the way. He's like, "Cool." And he says, "You speak really good English." That was my face. I'm thinking, you don't. You're going to discover in your education process, because this is just one part of what you're supposed to do with your life, which is you come here, you graduate, and then you move on to better things. But as you go through this process of going to better things, you will have to learn how to connect with some interesting people, let's call them that, right? People who group you and say, "Well, you're just a college student." The reason I share that story is a lot of times what happens is we assume that because we went to a community college, our value isn't any higher than a person, say, who went to university, which would not be true. I'm very grateful for the education that I've had, but I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that the place that gave me all the foundation that I needed to be successful was a community college. My campus did that for me. Faculty spent hours with me. Staff spent hours with me. I bugged a lot of people, and they were there for me. And what makes a huge difference there is the fact that people are willing to be there for you. So you're in this really fortunate position right now to have had all the faculty that's sitting behind you investing themselves in you, allowing you to be a part of a cap of 24 to 30 students, but giving you personal attention so that you would have all the foundation that you need. See, foundations are valuable, they're important. Without a foundation, buildings don't stand. Without a foundation, it's very difficult for us to add new things. So today we're going to talk a little bit about adding new things. I have a few things that I want to share with you, some things I've learned along the way. I'm sure you heard in my story that I'm not originally from here. People usually ask me where I'm from. They say, "Where are you from?" I usually say East Texas. And that's exactly what happens. People just laugh at me right to my face. But that's okay. There's a couple of things I've learned about Texas, though. You can start a sentence, answer a question, or just throw it out there whenever you want to with this one line. I tell you what. We're going to use that line several times throughout my few minutes of spending time with you. So when I point at you, your answer is? There you go. There you go. The first thing I want to share with you is that you need to have a sense of humor. You really need to do, and you really have to look at the irony of things. Life is very ironic. It's just the way it is, right? I'll give myself as an example. I married a woman who who was born in Florida, but grew up in a town called Defiance. I'll let that one sink for a second. A person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs. It's jolted by every pebble on the road. I meet interesting people all the time. Some of them are extremely annoying. They are. I never really tell them that they're annoying. I just smile, and I pretend not to speak English. It's really great, right? You will have to learn that, right? You will have to learn how to communicate in more than just English. Sometimes your nonverbals will do that, right? Other times you'll pretend like you know more than you know. My wife cannot roll her R's to help her life, but I have learned that I can roll my R's as if I do speak Spanish. Carro, perro, charro, ferro, carril. You need to have some fun, right? When we study, we do everything that we can to improve our life, to improve the lives of our families. Right? I was the first PhD in my family. I'm the first doctor, but I'm the last in my family. So normally you would assume that the firstborn out of 9 would have done that. But ultimately what's happened is that I've started to inspire my own siblings to do the same thing. Don't ever let anyone tell you you are not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not tall enough. Whatever they say, do not let anyone tell you you cannot, because that's the worst words you could ever listen to. But you know what? Sometimes you have to take things with a grain of salt. Here's the interesting about humor, when you think about humor in the larger sense. Humor used to be thought to be one of the 3 elemental liquids in a person's body. So it serves 3 purposes. And I know I'm getting nerdy, but just relax. We'll go back to fun in a moment. So humor will play these 3 roles. It'll provide a role as a lubricant, as a coolant, and as a hydrant. Now, I want you to think about what that does for you. Sometimes you're in situations that get extremely heated. You're disappointed, right? You've been personally attacked. All kinds of things will happen to you. You will have to see the humor in it. You will have to find a way to connect with people regardless. Those certificates and those diplomas that you're about to receive, they will mean nothing if you do not represent this school well. Everywhere you go, people should be able to say, that person went to TCC, and I can tell because they've got the highest levels of integrity. They know how to relax as well. Make sense? You will have to find ways to connect with people who you disagree with. And if we look at the political theater today, because that's what it is a theater, there's a lot to disagree with. But it's about us finding ways where we can find commonality, right? There's a lot of people in this room right now. I doubt any 2 people in this room can agree on everything. We have to find ways to connect, because that connection is what makes our communities, our schools, our families, and our country better. There's a couple of things I want to share with you, in addition to having a sense of humor and looking at life and recognizing that it can be ironic. Number 1 is I want every single person in this room, especially the graduates, to be fat. I know, I just said that. F-A-T, fat. Relax. I know you're getting nervous. The guy from Africa is using weird words. Chill. Faithful, available, and teachable. We're going to spend a few moments and talk about what it means to be faithful, available, and teachable. One definition says that faith is the assurance, the confirmation, and the title deed of the things that we hope for, the proof of the things we don't see, and the conviction of their reality. Most of you did not imagine this day would come. Some of you thought this day was taking way too long, and yet here you are, about to graduate. Come on, that's pretty awesome. You had to have a lot of faith. You had to endure a lot of jeering from people. People looked at you funny because they realized that you were giving up time with them or time to other things so that you could devote yourself to your education. And trust me, it's going to pay off. It will. It's important for you to stay steadfast. In the middle of all the things that will happen from this day going forward, you will have to keep calm. You will have to keep your eye on the things that matter most. And that's what I'm asking you today. Stay faithful. Don't stop learning. Just because your formal education might be over, and I hope it's not, I hope you will go on from here and attain even more education, not for the paper, but specifically so that you can fill your mind with even more. Stay faithful. The second point is to be available. See, the first thing you and I have to do is to show up. There's an amazing power in being able to simply show up. Woody Allen said that 80% of success is showing up. Half the time, all we need to do is just be there, right? Sometimes circumstances, they tend to conspire against and for people who are there. Does that make sense? It's very difficult for me to give you a gift if you're not there. But all the gifts that you're going to gain from this life that you're embarking on next, they're going to come from the fact that you have chosen to show up. So stay available. But even in the middle of your availability, and I understand that this moment and this day belongs to you, I want you to realize that life is about serving. It is not about receiving. It's wonderful to receive, but it's even more blessed to give. You and I have to do more for the people who are less fortunate than us. And you could define less fortunate however you wish. One person put it this way: service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. Every day I recognize just how fortunate my life is, how many blessings I have. Now, we could talk about all the education that all of us in this room have, but ultimately, if we don't use it to benefit other people, it's a wasted education. Stay available. The next point is to remain teachable. John Wooden said it's what you learn after you know everything that counts. I know there's a few of you who think you've learned everything you can about your field, but you would be surprised you've only learned a small portion. That should encourage you to learn even more. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who is a wonderful philosopher and professor in Atlanta, he said this: formal education will make you riches, but self-education will make you a fortune. You now have attained the formal education, whether it's an Associate of Applied Science, whether it's an Associate of Science, whether it's a certificate or an Associate of Arts. You've attained something, right? For many of us in this room, it's always nice to have proof that you were there, right? Got the t-shirt, I was there. Except the people who wear Harvard t-shirts, but they never went. Sir Winston Churchill said this: personally, I'm always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. You and I won't always like to be taught. But here's the thing about the lessons that you're about to learn after this graduation. Life will conspire to teach you lessons that you're not willing to learn. It'll give you the same lesson over and over until you get it, which is why it's important that you stay faithful, that you stay available, and that you stay teachable. And you always have to have a thread running through everything that you do every day, and we call that humor. See, I don't take myself too seriously. I mean, you can't tell. I'm wearing a bow tie right now, but you can't because I'm a little nerdy, right? I just don't take myself too seriously. However, I do take what I do very seriously. You're about to embark on a journey that's going to bring so many amazing opportunities for you. I would like you to be even more prepared. The last thought that I have for you today is on perseverance. And the vast majority of you persevered to get here. Would you agree? Tay, you would. I was in Enterprise, Alabama last week. Has anybody ever been to Enterprise, Alabama? Yay! It's this small. But it's awesome. Now, the only way you get to Enterprise, Alabama is you have to take a crop duster from Atlanta into Dothan, which is a totally different city. And half the time, you are probably the one flying the crop duster. It was for me. But there's an interesting story about Enterprise, Alabama. Not too long ago, the Mexican boll weevil came into town. Now, they were known for cotton. And the Mexican boll weevil came into town and completely destroyed their entire crop of cotton. Now, most of us would assume things are over. Our livelihood is gone. Interestingly, that same year, their crop of peanuts doubled, tripled, quadrupled. And to this day, they are known as the peanut area. Does that make sense? And here's the interesting thing that they did. In the middle of their downtown, and I say that very loosely, because I think this building is smaller, maybe it's bigger than their downtown. Right in the middle, they have a little roundabout, and they have a lady holding up a Mexican boll weevil. They had a little statue. When I say little, it's about this tall, but it's still a statue. And the reason that they have that is at the bottom, they have a notation that says, "From our tragedy came our greatness." You're going to endure lots of tragedies. You're going to endure a lot of difficult situations. But here's my answer for you. I don't have one with me. Maybe I'll bring one later this evening. But I want you to think of a straw. Everybody knows what a straw is, right? We use it to sip drinks and so forth, which I'm sure you're ready to do now. Calmate. A little while longer. I always tell people, when things go wrong, suck it up. Every one of us should have a straw close by. It should be the one thing that reminds us that we must persevere. Here's the thing about life. You can stop the presses. You could stop everything that you're doing. But when you do, remember, everybody else doesn't stop. When things go wrong, keep moving. I've had some very interesting brushes with, close enough to death, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, whatever you want to call it, right? When you're trying to get educated, it's amazing the things you have to go through, the relations you have to develop. And so I wrote a poem once, and I'm going to read it to you. And maybe you can relate to this a little. I have been told that I'm too ambitious, yet they applaud my achievements. I have been told that I need to balance, yet they've never played my juggling act. I have been told that I'm heartless, yet they never see my tears of despair. I have been told that I should chase my dreams, yet it should not destroy their comfort zone. You are not going to make a lot of friends as you pursue your dreams. It's just the nature of the beast, but you have to pursue your dreams anyway. I would like to conclude with a very simple thought, something that I live by day. In the confrontation between the rock and the stream always wins, not by strength, but by perseverance. Congratulations.